Sair da escola já com uma formação profissional no currículo? Parece bom demais pra ser verdade, né? Pois é. No ensino técnico do Senac, isso é possível. É ensino médio junto com formação técnica, que acontece durante os 3 anos. Lá, eles usam metodologia para projetos, desenvolvendo competências como resolução de problemas, pensamento crítico e colaboração, além de valores éticos e sustentáveis. Quer saber? Senac. Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino médio e saiba mais.
Hi there, I am Sarah Jane Case, and I'm the host of your new favorite show, Enneagram and Coffee. This podcast is dedicated to discussing the beautiful and hard parts of being human. We discuss the Enneagram, a personality map that is taking over the world, for increased self-compassion, personal growth, and healthier relationships. Listen to Enneagram and Coffee on the iHeart app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk, a literary podcast where we deep dive into the writings of your favorite novels. This summer, we are hosting our Romantasy edition of a book club while we prepare our 15-part literary analysis of Sarah J. Maas's A House of Sky and Breath.
This is Jack.
And I'm Amy.
And each week we'll discuss one book from our summer book club roster. By using our literary backgrounds, we'll provide our first blush analysis of each book, as well as discuss listener thoughts.
This week, we are discussing Angel's Blood by Nalini Singh.
Okay, so we have a super special guest, one of our favorite friends of the podcast, Lili, aka Happy Hermit. Thank you so much for this absolute last minute invite. You are our hero.
I am literally I was kind of hoping, secretly hoping that you guys would DM me. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, should I even ask if I can crash their party?
Always. You can always ask to be like, hey, you're gonna talk about this. I would like to be on. I want to talk to you about this.
I want to join. So I was pretty ecstatic.
I'm so glad because we were literally at the gym yesterday morning and we were talking about this recording for Angel's Blood. Because Jack was like, I'm going to have to look at Goodreads reviews. None of our listeners have probably read it. And I was like, well, you know who did just read the series? Lili.
That's our low-key way of being like, we follow you. we watch everything you post and read.
I'm so glad. Because I do the same with you guys. I'm just like, I love seeing what little adventures you guys are going on. And
so many adventures.
I love it.
I love it. So we are discussing Angel's Blood. But there will be spoilers to this book and then the series because, I know Amy and I will not have the patience and we'll be like, just tell us what happened.
Just tell us everything. There will also potentially be SJM spoilers specifically for Crescent City because as some of us...
Ooh, and ACOTAR.
And ACOTAR?
You know what? You tell us what we're spoiling.
Okay. All right. And ACOTAR.
I just think that for SJM in general,
okay,
in
Extended
general
universe.
is what I would say.
Even Third and Glass, you think?
I would in more of her writing style. Mm-hmm, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know what? If listeners beware, we've done all we can.
And I'm glad you bring that up, Lili, because I just watched an interview between Nalini Singh and Sarah J. Maas that took place in 2021.
Yeah,
you're ahead of me. I've been saving it for a rainy day, which actually is today, so I should probably just
perfect.
I mean, I skimmed through it. I didn't watch the whole thing, so
it starts with SJM fangirling so hard. Nalini Singh is one of her most favorite authors.
Yep.
And she adores this series, so it'll be very interesting to hear what you have to say, Lili, based on your readings.
Well, that's how I was introduced to it. Was I kind of knew on the outskirts that Sarah had talked about this, author and series beforehand. And I just kind of backlogged it in the back of my mind. Mm-hmm. And then Ali Hazelwood recently has been nonstop about this author and her other series, which I do want to read eventually, but I kind of need a break from such a huge series again. And then I was like, okay, so Ali Hazelwood's talking about this author. Sarah kind of is talking about it. I was like, I probably should get on board. And so I ordered it, and then the day that I ordered it, Sarah did like a little, pop up in an interview where like popular authors are talking about their favorite authors and their favorite series, and Sarah specifically mentions the Guild Hunters. So I was just like, okay, yep, the second it comes in the mail, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And that's how I found her. And
what year was it? It's
original
Angel's
book?
Blood is the first one, right? It's not like she had
It's like-
another series before this.
No, I think actually the Heat of Sensation, the Psy Changeling series actually had like 1 or 2 books out beforehand.
Oh, so was that part of the world then, or?
They're
Okay.
separate, but they're both urban fantasies in that the Archangel, or the Guild Hunter series is based in New York, and the Psy Changeling series is based in California.
2009. Sorry, I just wanted to like note that Angel's Blood was 2009 because of just how I hate saying how far in the past that is because it doesn't feel that far. But
she like whips out a flip phone in the book, and I had to put the book down for a second. I was just like, oh, I haven't thought about that she like snaps her phone shut like after a phone call, like sassily, and I was just like, oh, Twitch is an old person. Like, I haven't thought about shutting a phone in so long.
It's too funny. And I think it's important to know, like, both of her series have something like 13 or 15 books each. Is that correct?
Well, this one has 17, counting the printed novellas.
Wow.
And then the Psy Changeling series has probably like 20 plus, because there's also like a Trinity series that's a part of it.
Wow.
It's a lot.
She cranks them out.
I'm extra excited to talk to you because Amy and I both struggle with this book in the sense that, like, I don't know, I blacked out. I can't remember. Like, even as I was reading it, I was like, what just happened? So, something.
Okay. I feel like I need to be a defender of this series.
I want you. That's the thing, is I want you to do that.
I don't think. I hate being this person. People were like that with like the Zodiac Academy series, which, I'm sorry, anybody who's listening, I love that you love it. I loathe that series entirely. If I could like physically rip something out of the fabric of the universe, it probably would. Like, there are a lot of like terrible people I've met in my life. I would probably put them on the back burner and go for Zodiac Academy first. Like, I hate to be that person because I'm so much like, love what you love, and I'm so happy people are reading and you find joy, and then also me, I'm like, put it in the garbage.
Yeah.
I don't ever talk about it. So I don't ever talk about Zodiac Academy just for that reason. But people are always like, oh, you have to wait, like you have to build it, like the first ones are really bad, like blah 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 blah. And I'm like, if you're telling me I have to wait 5 books to get invested in something, like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
But I will say with Guild Hunters, it's, if you're not totally in love with it on the first book, like, it is book 2 and 3 that really really reel you.
We say that about A Court of Thorns and Roses all the time.
Exactly. And Throne of Glass, like, I do.
Which is so wild to me because I loved them both. Like, I loved the first Throne of Glass book. I loved ACOTAR, like, first read.
Yeah, but like, Throne of Glass, I tell people, I'm like, she was young when she wrote it. She progresses as an author. Like, it is like, what you get in that first book is not what you get in the 5th book.
Yes, it is like, when you see people like sobbing over it, like, it's because there is a whole journey. I will give you that.
Yeah. So I'm happy to hear that maybe I need to invest in this series.
I don't know, 17 books.
It's a lot, but I will say this. So there's 17 books. I'm gonna throw out the novella. Pretend the novella doesn't exist. Like, it's just side character stories that kind of like you meet through the thing, but they don't ever get like their own POV. And she just kind of crammed a few like of those stories in one book. So there are 8 books that focus on Raphael and Elena, the main couple, and then there are 8 books that deviate from the main couple. So it's not just like an overwhelming overload of one couple, and like, how many times can you write this one couple doing the same, like, same things?
I will forgive one breakup and back together. I can't do more.
It doesn't ever happen. It doesn't ever happen. And that's something I commend. So she keeps it interesting without making their relationship a plot point.
I
respect
appreciate
that. I
that.
do respect
And
that
I
a lot.
think there's something so realistic about that as well, because like when you see like people are like, oh, they're my fated mate, but then they betray me. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that what a soulmate's not supposed to do? Like, aren't they supposed to be unconditional with you?
Right?
And like once Raphael and Elena do like solidify their relationship, they're just like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we just have to work through whatever issues we get and like still be together, which is such an accurate representation of like an actual relationship
Yeah.
for long-term purposes.
So it sounds like the series ends up being a little bit more plot driven because the first book, oh yeah, so
Lily's
'cause
face.
the first book, it was kind of, and now that you're saying this, I can see where like the first book was almost her just being like, I need to get this out of the way so you can understand. Like it's just like
Yeah.
an extended epilogue, really, and
Or prologue.
prologue. Thank you, prologue,
Yeah.
an extended prologue, and because like it was very much like the relationship was really weird for me, like them getting
Oh
together,
yeah.
them
Oh yeah.
not like I half appreciated. I mean, Elena as a character, I did appreciate her being very like no to him. Like I think she was the most, even though she was saying yes, but she was the most like the first character I've heard be like, hey, what you're doing isn't consent. I don't
Yeah.
consent to that. That is equivalent to rape. And I really liked that from a character.
So I it's so weird being like, I feel like I'm like from the, coming back down from the top of the mountain, like,
Yeah.
you do that huge hard hike and you get to the bottom and you're like, oh wow, like that's why they had signs saying like there are rocks up ahead. Like there are actually rocks up ahead.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give you a description of what the actual plot of the entire series is.
Please do.
Because
Yes,
it's not
yeah.
because it's not in the first book. You don't get it until you're, like I said, you're up the mountain. So essentially there is a catastrophic world event power that's starting in the first book but is not shown until like the third book.
Okay.
And so essentially with the archangels and with their kind of immortal creature, they never die and they go to sleep. So what happens to that power of the sleeping creatures? Like there's kind of like a balance that has to happen. And essentially, without giving too much away, when too much power is just there, it needs to be expended.
Yeah.
So bad things happen because it needs to have that expended power, like for balance purposes. And you kind of see how especially with Raphael in the beginning, you're seeing the negative effects of immortality and how like he's, a couple hundred, almost, I don't know, he's maybe 1,000, is he 1,000 years old or is he only like 800? I can't even remember.
I think it was like 800.
And how you lose the meaning of like mortality and like kindness because you're like, oh, I'm old, I can just fix it later, I can just become a better person later, and then later never comes.
Yeah.
And so like that's what's happening with Raphael when he meets Elena, and she becomes his balancing piece so that he doesn't become the villain essentially, because like he was on the track to be the villain of the world, and she's the piece that balances him out. And like the rest of the series is there is a character who doesn't take the chance that Raphael had with Elena, and they become the villain.
Oh.
And they make a lot of really bad decisions, and everybody kind of has to pay the price of that.
Yeah.
The entire world does.
Yep. It sounds like even some of the things that you said immediately was kind of like flagging ACOTAR for me. Like it was, like Reese has said, I need to like have I'm so powerful. If I'm not spending this power, like bad things will happen. Like I'll explode.
Yeah.
So even some of those themes I can like, even though we'll probably talk about that in a little bit later, but like even some of that I was like, oh, I can see SJM pulling from there. But I like the question of like what happens with this power, like what do you do with it? And it's almost like I can kind of see that almost being like a metaphor for like human power, like someone who's like high up in
Yeah.
politics, or someone who is like a CEO of a super big company. Like, what happens when you have all that power?
Yeah. It's a lot, and the thing that I really loved about the series and what I kind of kept coming back to is that it's Nalini. I always kept saying Nalani, but I think it's Nalini.
Yes, I think it's Nalini.
Yeah. She keeps bringing up this idea of like with fantasy novels, we always just kind of see like, oh, you're immortal, so you get to live with your partner forever, and like everything's just roses and great. But then she actually gives us like, oh, immortality actually kind of sucks.
Yeah.
As like to be like a being that exists continuously forever, it like there's so many things that actually goes wrong because of that. And I love that underlying theme.
I want to talk a little bit about the world that she's created, because it's urban fantasy. So, like, it's not like the first urban fantasy that I read, but it's an interesting one where she has angels and vampires, which is not a combo that I would imagine. And angels creating vampires.
Yeah.
And it's just not it's not the go-to, I would say, of urban fantasy-ness.
And in that way, it feels really unique, right? Of taking concepts we understand already, or creatures we already understand, and combining them in new ways. I did find that very, very interesting. I would also say on Goodreads, if you read any Goodreads reviews for this book, it is very divisive on, is this urban fantasy or is this paranormal romance?
Oh.
Very divisive.
Oh, I guess I don't know enough about the nuances of paranormal versus urban. Isn't paranormal like not necessarily magic is involved, but like just magical beings? Like there's kind of like a separation of that.
Yeah, so like think of Bride with werewolves and vampires. That would be a paranormal romance.
Yeah.
And it's kind of romance driven versus plot driven. And urban fantasy, what I'm reading from the reviews is the expectation of urban fantasy is A, no paranormal creatures, but also B, it's very plot driven rather than romance driven.
Oh, interesting.
And so I think and that could be wrong. I think people just have very specific expectations, and they go into this book expecting one and getting the other.
Yeah.
And
Also, like, when did we decide that vampires are paranormal and fairies are not? Like, who came up with that? Who was like, meanwhile, poor werewolves are like, what the fuck, man? I'm just over here trying to live my life. I want to be a part of the fantasy. That's yeah.
Well, I mean, realistically, like at least like SJM's fairies are very similar to vampires. Like they have the canines, they have a weird thing with necks and biting. Like the only difference is they eat food instead of drink blood.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm sure some of the fae drink blood if they want to.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. There's probably some weirdos.
Yeah. I mean, King of Hybern. You can't tell me he never drank some blood.
I was gonna say Pierre's weird, like
yeah. Yeah. So the world feels pretty unique, but would you say, like, I'm gonna state the obvious: Crescent City coded much. Like, dear Lord, that was hard to not notice.
I think that Crescent City was Sarah's love letter to the Guild Hunters series. Yeah. Like, I think it was very intentional what she did. Like, I think she is like, I love this series so much. I love like mass paperback, urban fantasy authors, and I want to be a part of that crowd, and I want to just like show my love for it in my way. And I think that's what Crescent City was. And I would even argue, actually, Rosie, who's been on this talked with us before, she always says that House of Earth and Blood is a perfect urban fantasy standalone. Like
it is.
You could just cut it. You could just only read one book and call it good.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I would agree to her. And I think that was Sarah's intention. Like to just be like, this is like my love for this, and I want to do it like that. Because most of like the Guild Hunters books are all standalones. Like there's only like 2 or 3 that like kind of end on quote unquote cliffhangers.
Interesting.
All of them every single book has their own start and finish. So like
Yeah.
there's a lot of places you can break like in the series without feeling like
You're missing out.
Yeah, like, oh,
Yeah.
I need the without oh,
Yeah.
they landed in a different world and now I have to. Hello, my name is Rhysand.
Yes. Yes. There's like I think it was like I can't remember if it was like 11 or 10 or whatever one, but one of them ends in a mirror, like a parallel version of the first book.
Oh.
And it was very cool. It was very cool. And I think that's the only like cliffhanger that we get like in this series.
I could see Sarah reading that and being like, "Oh, that's so cool. I want to do it." I don't know if timing wise that's how it lines up, but I mean, given the love SJM expressed to Nalini Singh, she she literally says in the interview, "I want to shit my pants."
Yeah, she was like very excited.
So hard.
Yeah.
I love her so much.
SJM was acting the way that I would meeting SJM. Like it's
I thought of that too. I was like, this is how Jack would act if she met SJM.
Why don't you too?
I'd have more cool.
I'd be really cool, but my whole face would just be bright red. But I'd be like, "Oh, I'm just sunburnt. Like it's fine." I'm trying to play it really cool.
Yeah.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
No, I mean, now I want SJM to go do a parallel universe situation. Or maybe like her having the different worlds is her version of a parallel universe. I'm sure there's other, once her mind starts going, I don't think it's going to be completely, Angel's blood coded the whole time. But yeah, it was Oh yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
No.
You. No. You go.
Okay.
I was going to shift the conversation, but I don't want to. I want to hear what you're going to say.
Shift away.
I was just going to say, like, I could see Elena, right? So much. Like, I can see so much of Bryce. Like, if Bryce, because Elena's a little bit older.
She's 28.
Yeah. It's like if Elena was younger and had a little bit of a drinking and drug problem,
that would have been Bryce.
A little bit more of a reckless attitude, then I can see that being very much Bryce. Bryce felt like dialed up to a 10.
You know what? I just realized this because Elena's hair is like, isn't it like silver white? Isn't she not both Danica and Bryce? She's the two of them.
Yeah.
If you
know what's funny is there's an Elena. There's an Elena in Throne of Glass with like silver white hair.
Oh, that's funny.
Aelin's, Aelin's ancestor.
Oh, you're right. You're right. The one that she communes with.
Yeah.
Wait, what year did Throne of Glass come out?
2012?
2012, and then ACOTAR came out in 2014. This is actual trivia for me.
How confident do you guys feel? I'm just curious.
I feel good about ACOTAR. I don't feel good about Throne of Glass.
Oh, yep. Published August 2nd, 2012.
Good job.
I was right.
Nice.
Yeah, then I was looking at this and I'm like, this isn't right. And it's the new ones and it says 2023. I'm like, what? That's not true. I know that's not true. Don't lie to me. So this one was definitely like, SJM, there was plenty of time for SJM to have been introduced to this world and to incorporate it into her other books.
There are so many times I actually had, because I annotate as I read. I didn't tab, but I did annotate as I read. But I circled like certain things and I just wrote Sarah, like with an exclamation point, being like, I see you, like girlfriend, bestie.
Do you have other moments?
Like, I think. Oh, so there are a bunch of names. So there's Iris, Kier, Maeve, Maja, Elena. I'm missing like one or two. I think maybe that's it. No, I feel like I'm missing one. I can't remember. I think I'm missing one more. But like they're all very like minor side, like down the line characters.
Yeah.
But aside from Elena, but I don't know when Sarah wrote Elena in Throne of Glass versus when she started reading Guild Hunters.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair.
But there's so many moments where I've just been like, Sarah, like all of Jason's book, I think Sarah literally wrote fan fiction. Like, I think she wrote ACOTAR so she could write Jason fan fiction. Like,
wait, so tell us about Jason. Tell us about Jason.
So Jason is, the cadre. That's the one I was trying to, the cadre. We have the cadre in talk. So Jason is one of Raphael's 7. He's his eye master. My book boyfriend, because apparently I have a type. But Jason has unheard dark black wings. He's quiet, cold, has a super traumatic past.
Daddy Azzy? Is this an Azriel?
He's literally a spy master.
Yeah.
No, it literally was reading it and I was just like Sarah, I see you. Tell me, I can tell who your favorite was. So he gets his own book. And he has, this is a spoiler, so if anybody doesn't want to be spoiled for what Jason's power is. So Jason has a power where he can like hear the whisperings in the wind. It like tells him things or leads him places. And
Sarah,
to go even deeper, so the thing that I love most about Azriel, and one of my favorite book quotes of all time, is what Rhys says about Az in the battle, is that hope to hope when the world says despair. Basically, that Azriel is hope incarnate, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, and at his core, he is just like always like kind of yearning and longing and like hoping for better things, which cry. But that's like the whole story of Jason and his princess is like hope, and how is so powerful, and like the relationship that he has with his princess is just so sweet.
Is his princess any kind of ACOTAR coded? You the answer, Lily, I've never seen a more yes on your face that you don't want to say. Lily.
Look, she never touched a flower, but she's not quite Elaine. Like, I would not say that it's the same, but there are definite similarities. So this princess, this girl, she is, so one of the archangels, her consort cheated on her, and he had a daughter. And the way that the angels was like, all children are cherished and treasured and loved. Like, nobody, like, if anybody even looks at a child, human or otherwise, like, that's grounds for like torture in the angel world. Like, they're very serious about children. And that's so good. she does, it is actually really cool to see throughout the series. But like, once the child becomes a teenager, like, all bets are off.
It's like, fuck you, you're done.
Nobody cares. Yeah, like, nobody cares. But so the Archangel does sort of take care of her, but like not in a great way, like just like the bare minimum.
Gotcha.
And she hit the princess like is quiet, but she's very kind and she's super loved, and people mistake her meekness or her submissiveness for a lack of strength, but she actually uses that to her advantage, and like is also kind of like not a spy, but she like keeps she's not a spy, but very spy-like kind of way, and her and Jason are like tasked to solve a murder together. And
just from that description, I'm already like, that could be anyone. Like that could be Elaine, that could be Gwen, that could be like it is like broad enough.
I will say there is one character later in the books. Like,
oh,
I wouldn't say that Mahaya, I think that's how you pronounce her name, the princess, is Elaine, but I definitely think there's a Gwen character later in the books. And it was one of my, like, it's kind of funny, I have like different favorite stories throughout the whole thing. Like obviously Raphael and Elena, they're like mom and dad to me. But there are like of the 7 stories that are just like super fun, and there's like Nazar, who is one of the 7. He's kind of, so there are angels and there are vampires and humans, but there are also kind of others in this world, and Nazar is one of these others. And he is tasked to help a priestess acolyte librarian.
There it is.
Who has taken, who has taken, nothing bad, like Gwen's character, obviously she's gone through a lot of trauma, like, and she chooses to become a priestess because of that. This character, not quite so much, but sort of similar, like nothing bad happened to her, but she kind of lived a bad childhood, and the only way she could kind of escape was she wanted to do it, but it was also like 2 good things that happened at the same time for her. But she takes vows of celibacy, except there's an addendum, because they always I don't know why, but there's an addendum, and basically
there's a vow for celibacy. Like during the vow, you could be like, I promise not to have sex unless he's like super hot.
Unless God sends me a sign.
Look, the amount of signs I've had with Theo James, and yet that's never happened.
So hers though, because she's like, I never want to have sex, so I'm gonna just pick like this like super impossible thing. If a guy or whoever wants to sleep with me, he has to find me this book that's actually a myth and bring it to and present it to me as a present. And Nazar is like, he sees like, once Raphael gets a mate, then it's kind of like one of those like pack mentality things, and everybody else kind of like finds their mate. And Nazar is like, I want one. Like, what the heck? I'm gonna go find, like, why is he's kind of, he has like a, I wouldn't say childlike, because that would be kind of creepy, but like he does kind of have like this childlike playfulness thought process.
It kind of gives me like a Cassian vibe too there.
No, there is a Cassian character.
Oh my god.
And Venom and his girl are literally like a tamer version of Nesta and Cassian, like even to the point where she got in the first book, actually you meet her, Honor. She was the girl that they find in the warehouse. At the end. Spoilers again.
That's why we did it at the top. That's why we did it at the top.
Why'd you guys have me on here?
So you can spoil it for us.
So something did happen to her when Aram like was playing with her, and like she hates it, and she's changed, and she doesn't like it, and she doesn't like her power, and it becomes a burden on her, and like she meets Venom, who trains her and like uses the training to like kind of help her become more acclimated to her body and like, stuff like that. It's literally Cassian and Nesta. I'd have to look at like the dates, obviously, of when, because like there is a point to where like there are ACOTAR books already out, and like there are other books that hadn't come out yet, so like I'd have to look at like dates of it, but it's pretty on par with each other.
It's there. Okay, so the Gwen character, the guy goes and finds a book because he's like, I want one of those.
Oh no, he is signed to her, and then he's just like, oh, that's the girl for me, and he's just like, okay, let's mate now, and she's just like, whoa, buddy, no, like I got rules, and he's just like, I hate rules. What the hell? he's kind of a weirdo.
Yeah.
He's cute. I love him. He's one of my favorite characters, but he's kind of a weirdo, and that's probably why I like him. He actually does know where the book is, like, the whole time, basically, but he can't go get it because they have something really important they have to do. He's, like, really crabby about it.
He's like, we could be having sex right now.
Literally, he's like, I have to do this for Raphael. I'm so grumpy about it because I'd rather be going to go do that. And so he's like, let's just hurry up so I can go do the other thing. And she's just like, you're never going to find it. Like, it's just like, wait here. And then he goes and he gets the book and he comes back and they have sex in a field. And that's the end of the book.
The funny thing is, in my mind, I was like, oh my god, I want a man who's like this. And you're like, sex in a field. I'm like, oh, well, I don't know.
Maybe not. Blanket. She's waiting for him, but like she goes and like sets up a picnic and like lays a blanket down. Like she comes prepared. He said wait here, like so she knew he was serious.
She comes back like, blanket, pillow, some like a little bit of lube, whatever she's gonna do to like, aftercare, whatever is needed. It's like the most like set prepared blanket in the middle of a field ever.
Literally though. It was pretty funny. That's basically what happened.
Oh my god. The more you're talking, okay, so how many books would you say is per cadre guy? Like, because it's like at least a couple with Raphael and Elena.
So Raphael and Elena, they get the first 3 books, and then it's Demi, him and I have a great understanding. I like him, but only in his wife's perspective. Like,
oh, interesting.
Only in his wife's perspective do I like him. I do appreciate his story, and it's actually sad. Like, he had a wife and a kid, a wife and a kid, and they were like, killed, and he didn't want to be turned into a vampire, and he was forced.
Wait, do you know who that reminds me of, Amy? That sounds like a different book series. No.
Oh, that sounds like Serpent in the Wings of Night.
Oh.
Sounds like Rain.
Yeah.
Oh, spoilers for me, you jerks.
Oh shit, sorry.
I'm in the middle of reading that.
It's not gonna spoil.
It doesn't spoil anything. It like if he says it pretty early on. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
So I read the first book like a year ago, and I'm just now rereading it because I've read everything else in that universe.
Okay, so you know it. It was in the first book.
I forgot all about it. I was gonna say, you jerk. I thought it was gonna be like a big reveal in like the second book. I was like,
no, that was you just forgot.
I just got I'm sorry. You guys aren't jerks. I take it back.
No, I was prepared to be a jerk. That's fine.
Me over here spoiling a 17 book series.
The difference is we asked for it. That's the
we did ask.
Oh boy,
we asked you to not hold back.
I know. Well, okay, so that gives me massive Serpent in the Wings of Night, but you were also saying Rowan, which I can kind of see that too. But timeline wise, I don't know where that lands.
Rowan as well.
But
I can see that for Rowan as well.
But I think I'm like now, because I mean authors clearly love her, so
yeah no I literally think that she is foundational blocks of the fantasy romance series that we love.
I feel like I have to go read it now.
I mean, we've talked about this though on other episodes where we can see inspiration from one book to the next.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising to me, it's not like it doesn't diminish how good Sarah J. Maas is to know how much she may have been inspired by Nalini Singh. That's just how writing works most of the time.
So
it's
much.
A call and response.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that we love to say, and like, I mean, the amount of things that I've read that I'm like, oh, this is how I would do it though. Like, this is what I would do. And, we talked about how, we can see Blood and Ash being a response to Akatar. We can see Serpent in the Wings of Night being a response to Blood and Ash, and a lot of other things happening there. But yeah, she really does kind of sound like the
the launching point almost.
I was thinking like the willow tree of everyone, like Pocahontas, like the Willow,
Like with
Mother
all the
Willow.
different
Well,
little.
Yeah.
I think what it really is that, you know, we're so lucky. Like now we have this privilege of like going to a Barnes and Nobles and like there are books with high fantasy and sex and it's
Yeah.
not weird. Like it's
Yep.
not a stigma anymore. And
Yes.
back in the day, like that just
Mhm.
wasn't there. And so you have authors like Nalini Singh, and you know, I'm not going to say that she's the only one and she plowed the
Yeah.
field and you know whatever, but I do think she walked so that Sarah J. Maas could run, so that
Yeah.
you know JLA could run, you know, just so that everybody
Mhm.
else could was like, oh, I can do this. I have these stories. I want to do that. And like the more
Yeah.
popular
Mhm.
they become, the more available it becomes, and the less stigma there is around it. And you know, you really have to give props or credit where credit is due with Nalini and all the other authors, because they
Yeah.
really did clear the way for us.
I absolutely do.
So
And I can
That's
only
my
imagine how
soapbox.
much. No, and I completely agree with you. I can only imagine how much flack they may have gotten for like, why are you
Oh, yeah.
writing about this and sex? Like,
Yeah.
pick a
Yeah.
lane.
It is. I'll divert. I'll sidetrack this conversation, but I feel like you'd appreciate this, Lily, and apparently there are listeners. I was like, I matched with this guy on Bumble. We matched. We exchanged phone numbers. We talked on the phone,
Mhm.
and like while we were on the phone, I say on my profile, like last year I read 117 books. Yes, they were mostly smutty, and so he kept trying to come back to the smutty thing. He was like, "So smutty. So you like to read smut?" And I was like, "Well." At first I was like, haha, yes. And then finally I was like, look, like, these are fiction. This is fantasy. Some are contemporary fiction. And like, they have sex scenes. Yes. They're just not afraid to like go there and do it well.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, like I have a podcast and we do this whole analysis as to like why that, just because they have sex scenes doesn't mean we can't be taken seriously. It doesn't mean that it's not good fantasy. It doesn't mean all these other things. And it ended up with like, so
Yeah.
smutty
Smutty books.
books. And I was like, good Lord, no.
Ugh.
I know. And then it ended.
This is like if I had a moment to like get everybody's ear in the world,
Yeah.
I'd be like, trying to say that something is fairy corn.
Yeah.
Like I see women doing this, like they diminish it.
Stop calling it fairy
just
porn.
because stop doing it. It's
Yeah.
not less than, it's more than, because at least they actually encompass human emotion.
Yeah.
Like you look
right.
at, I don't want to say anything bad about Game of Thrones because I'm sure it's, epic and great, but like you have people who are like Game of Thrones is like top tier, it's like
Mhm.
genius work, like Sarah J. Maas, like there's smut in it. I'm like, yeah, there are also epic battle scenes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, all of her sex scenes are consensual.
Yeah,
and
they're
not
consensual
with
and they're
siblings.
good. And she understands anatomy. Assholes, like men. There's nothing that I want less than reading a sex scene written by a man. Like I just like things that I don't need in my life is like a man trying to explain an orgasm. Like, dear Lord.
I only ever given the pass to Jay Kristoff,
I don't know that one.
who
I don't
did
know.
he has Empire the Vampire,
Okay.
which is
I haven't read it.
I'm
pretty
willing
good.
because you said it.
Your heart will hurt, but like it's
Oh,
real
God.
good.
Okay.
When I want to
It's very-
cry, I'll go to that.
It's very it's a very dense fantasy, but there's a little bit of, like a touch of spice in it. And when I first read it, I was like, ugh, man. Ew. But then I was like, oh, okay, it wasn't so bad.
He understands.
I guess his wife reads through all this stuff and like will correct him
I
like on stuff.
respect
So
that.
yeah.
I respect a man who's willing to let a woman tell him, nope, you're wrong.
No, it's not.
Yeah. No,
Not how that works. But it works when we do it. No, it doesn't. Thank you for listening to part 1 of this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk. Stick around for part 2, which airs on Thursday.
We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. If you would like to submit your take on any of the books we plan to discuss later this summer, please be sure to follow us on Instagram, where we ask for listener submissions.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon, Ko-Fi, or Venmo. You can also follow us on TikTok or Instagram at the handle booktalkforbooktalk.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, I was doing a live the other day, and we're talking about like ACOTAR, and someone pops on and they're like, "Oh my god, I've just started reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. I love Tamlin." And I was like, no one say anything. I'm like,
no one's allowed to say
I was like, babe, I'm sorry, but this isn't your live. This isn't for you.
Leave.
Yeah. I respectfully ask you to go. That's like, I can only
I've
shield you so
I've
much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should do the
come
intro.
back when you're done.
I know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I will add all that stuff though, just because I thought it was fun.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.